I just realized that in the 2 years that I've done this, I don't think I've said my name. Hi, my name is Yena. I'm a modern Ajumma. I read these in the months of November and December. Are they all in frame? I realized that everyone's already uploaded their top 10 books of 2022, and if it isn't already blatantly obvious, I am not here for the algorithm. This is my hobby. I'm here to talk to you about books that I've read. November and December are the holidays. I am an Ajumma. I had a very busy and eventful November and December. Went camping during Thanksgiving with my family. I hosted Christmas. It was really lovely. I'm so grateful for everything that I have. Like a large extended family, like my library card. So let's get into it. The library this season was attacked by me, as were the bookstores. I started off November reading Sirens and Muses by Antonia Angress. The cover, captivated me. Beautiful oil painting. And then of course I watched Jalen's interview with the author, who is so cute and charming, and I was compelled to read her book. Just everything that she was saying, like fine art, art school, coming of age, queer stories. So I did enjoy my time spent in this world. The more stories that I read about people in their early 20s though, I have never felt so aged out. There are some insufferable pricks in this. And it's mostly the feeling of discomfort in these worlds of wealth. Like the characters themselves were uncomfortable, so it made me feel uncomfortable. I don't like feeling uncomfortable. This book, even though it's set like about 10-15 years ago, sounds pretty hyper right now. You know, the tone is fairly corny, over serious. Attention was the most valuable resource in the world, more powerful than any drug. Now in the age of the internet, everything that had ever been created was freely available to be spliced and diced and remixed and recontextualized. So he stopped being a photographer and instead became a photoshopper. Of course, with stories about people in their early 20s, there's a lot of I'm too cool for you vibes. Characters who act too aloof, swanning their way around fine art museums, their very beings challenging capitalism and ownership and gentrification. But what kept me invested in the story is Antonia Angress, her direction, her steerage of the ship, but what an achingly difficult path to take, to be constantly at war with the world. I just kept holding on to her voice, her spirit, her caring hands that guided me towards the natural progression of the climactic ending. I highly recommend. I mean, this is really a fun, enjoyable reading experience. I mean, I do still want to know what the youngins are hyped about. Youngins? Oh my god. I mean, do 20-something-year-olds even read these books? Or are they into YA only? More library books I read during camping via ebook. Anything is Possible, and then a physical copy of Lucy by the Sea, both by Elizabeth Strout. I was previously mistaken that the Lucy Barton series is a trilogy. It's not. It's a whatever the word is for a series of 4. And Anything is Possible, I believe, is the second. Kind of totally easy to miss. It does not center on Lucy Barton, and instead it centers in the world of Lucy Barton, in her hometown, the neighboring towns, the people in her life that she left when she grew up, went to college, became a New Yorker. If Anything is Possible in particular, I immediately thought of Hannah Coulter. Between the farm, small town life, grandson on drugs, the impact of large events like wars, epidemics on everyday people. Yeah, with Anything is Possible in particular, it's intriguing because you could totally skip this one and still read the 3 other Lucy Barton books and miss almost nothing. This installment belongs in the Lucy Barton multiverse, but an outlier. I really just enjoy reading about older people I mean, like, I read this while I was camping with my grandparents-in-law, and other people who are septuagenarian plus, meeting people, hearing their stories about all the different people in their own lives. And then I would go back to my RV and read this book, which is more of the same. I guess I just couldn't get enough. It seemed the older he grew, the more he understood that he could not understand this confusing contest between good and evil, and that maybe people were not meant to understand things here on Earth. There is a story in this book where a house-proud woman's house becomes an analogy as her penis. And finally, we have the final installment of the series, Lucy by the Sea. Oh, which came out this year. I believe this is Elizabeth Strout's Pandemic Baby. This story is also a pandemic story, a lockdown story. She describes it as a seizure taking place around the world. And yeah, even though we're in 2022, I feel like our lockdown year was an era ago. This really took me back. It was a startling experience. It has everything. It has puzzles, walks, pregnancies, hearing from relatives who've found religion and don't believe in the virus, making new friends, Zoom therapy, Black Lives Matter protests, Trump, MAGA, the lengths of our self-interest, realizing that life is too short for grudges. The way that Elizabeth Strout writes just really makes me feel seen. It reminded me of 2020, and I bet that most of us here started our channels because we had all this indoor time suddenly to read more. And I mean, at least personally, it reminded me of how I got back into reading again because I was trying to find answers, any answers to life, to my future. I guess that's why I'm so into books about old people, because they've lived, so maybe they have the answers. No, I assure you that is not really the answer. But maybe more like reading about older people, talking to older people is akin to looking at the last page of a book to see what's there at the end. It is a gift in this life to not know what awaits us. Oh yeah, what a great ending to this series. I read Pure Color by Sheila Heti, which I had for over a year now on my shelf. For whatever reason, I read Motherhood first, and while Motherhood is her musings on motherhood, womanhood, life, Pure Color is Sheila Heti's musings on the mysteries, the intangibilities of life, of love, religion. I really liked her take on religion. God can be different things to different people, and it doesn't make it not real. Imagination doesn't make it not real. It was just so nice getting back into her head. And this was also a lockdown baby book. Oh, sublime. They just didn't consider the fact that one day they would be walking around with phones in the future, out of which people who had far more charisma than they did would let flow an endless stream of images and words. They just had no idea that the world would become so big, or the competition so stiff. They never saw a video of how another girl fixed her hair. They didn't even know that other girls fixed their hair. Everything, other lives, and the thoughts of people who were not themselves were all so equally far away. All that touched them was each other, and the books they read, and the music. And yeah, there's parts with like her dad and like her, if you read it, you know what I mean. Nevertheless, that take on grief, that take on loss, all her like what ifs, her maybes, her could be's, I just can't not call this book anything but glorious, subliminal. Okay. So Julie, London Librarian, hyped up this book, Boulder, by Eva Balthasar. Library ebook was available right away, so I was like, okay, let's read this. And it's pretty slim. I finished it in one sitting, in one night, and was shook. I was shook. The voice, oh my God. Oh, so angry, so bitter, so indignant, fiery. Oh, this is so anti-house. You shut yourself in every night and bolt the door, convinced it's safer that way, when in reality you're betraying yourself. You pull up the blanket and rest your head on the pillow, offering up your jugular. I highlighted the crap out of this ebook. There are just too many. So much gorgeous writing. By gorgeous, not like pretty, but like, oh, big, powerful, raging. This is amazing. Read it. So those are like some pretty serious, heady books. And then I immediately moved on to a lot of like popcorn books, like junk food books, such as Anon Pls-Deuxmoi. I'm just one of those people who loves celebrity gossip. Yeah, I follow her Instagram account, a teeny bit obsessed with it. This book was popcorn, fun, quick. While the characters are like catty, thin, they still feel real, like, these people. I personally did want to get into the fashion industry when I was in school. And then I quickly realized the types of people who work in fashion, and I am not at all like them. So yeah, that ended up not happening, thank God. But I do love to read about them. Gossip is always fun, no matter how irrelevant or cliche. And then because this was available on library audio, I read I'd Like to Play Alone, Please, essays by Tom Segura. I like Tom Segura. It was read by the author. If you're a fan, I highly recommend either book or the audio. The audio was great. There are like a couple passages where he's laughing at himself reading what he wrote. In general, you can't really go wrong reading comedians because they are writers. And while yes, this is a hyper hetero, kind of toxically masculine, there are just some stories that he tells, how he was 12 years old, growing up in another country, and how he killed his first room in the classroom. Oh, that was spectacular. Mall security guards and Secret Service agents both carry badges, but we both know who the real deal is. Stories about Florida, scary stories about Florida, which just gives me more confirmation that Florida is scary. I live in California. I'm terrified by 3 states in the United States: Florida, Texas, and Utah. Just every story, every book, every movie that are set in those states, horrifying. But yeah, this is entertaining, it's insightful, it's legitimately coming from a humble place. There's more insight into the business of comedy, a lot of work travel stories. I love those. A lot of celebrity stories. Again, it just makes me compare it to Stanley Tucci's Paltry comparison. This served as a reminder to me of how memoirs are incredible insights into a person and how they want to convey themselves. I remain liking Tom Segura. I bought, purely because of my OCD for the most read author tracking on Storygraph, Listening in the Dark, Women Reclaiming the Power of Intuition by Amber Tamblyn, but I purely bought this for Samantha Irby. Ultimately, this was so cute. This was like a school project where each student is given a prompt, and in this case, it's the prompt is instances when your intuition takes over, how intuition has impacted your life. Not everyone understood the excitement. Some people did. Like Samantha Irby, I truly believe that hers is the standout essay in this. Did I instinctively know that there were a lot of drunk drivers out there just waiting to paint the highway with my entrails? Or do I just not like to be behind the wheel after 4 p.m. during the winter months when it gets pitch black by dinner time? We'll never know. I think when you come from a family that centers problems as its narrative rather than solutions as its missions, these are designations I just made up because we were broke and uninsured, doesn't have a zippy ring to it. Extreme caution is just sort of baked into the cake of who you are. And yes, it's very clearly obvious who the master writers are and who's not a writer. And I didn't realize that Amber Tamblyn is the actress, the best sister of the Traveling Pants. But overall, shh, George. Everyone's stories are insightful, interesting. Yeah, this was actually fun. And I finally finished every book that Charles Heathcote has written now, currently. You know that I was Googling the shit out of this. They call greats on the road grids on the road. An OAP is an old age pensioner. I still don't know who Ken Bruce is. That's okay. This is what I believe the genre is called a cozy crime novel. It is like Anything is Possible in the Ardoris multiverse, where it is set in Partridge Mews and its adjacent towns and villages with the same people in the world, new people that were first introduced to, like Alice Valentine, like her amazing mother, Primrose, like an amazing female character named Clementine, an incredible sidekick character named Marmaduke Featherstone, whose friendship with Alice, despite their 50-year age gap, was so nice. And what was so lovely, it was grandma-granddaughter relationship between Alice and her auntie, Magdalena. There's baking. I also had one of those grandma-granddaughter relationships with both my grandmothers, both of who, in their own times, took turns raising me while my parents were out working all day. But yeah, just every Charles Heathcote book, I feel like I'm hanging out with a friend, gossiping, enjoying each other's company, but whose culture that I don't share. And I'm just delighted getting to know all its details and subtleties, but that feels like a parallel to my own, a lot of similarities, and it's so fun finding them. She cursed whoever thought elasticated waists were a good thing to give to men. Men spent their lives itching to share their bits with the world. I read Half-Blown Rose by Lisa Cross Smith, which also came out this year. I don't know if this is her pandemic baby book, but if it is, her solution for writing during lockdown was to just set her story outside of Kentucky like her other books and have this one set in Paris. Wishful thinking. I feel like Lisa Cross Smith is just the perfect library book writer. I don't know what size these hardcover books are called, but just it feels so good in your hands. It's thick, but not too thick. It's a page turner. This is just shy of 400 pages, and I read this in 2 sittings. Just immediately you get sucked straight into this straightforward, idealistic realism of a Lisa Cross Smith world. Although, what 24-year-old man is truly like this? That's the only thing that stretches my suspension of disbelief to the ceiling. And he has a Louis Garrel nose. Oh, this is so delightful, escapist, just a story about grown adults living their lives, eating good food, caring for plants, having sexual romantic relationships, corny, melodramatic, fun. Is she like a younger Black Nancy Myers? She is the opposite. At the very least, she is the opposite of Sally Rooney. Everyone is very upfront about their emotions, their desires. The main character even says, "I refuse to be embarrassed by my own feelings." I can't not enjoy this woman-centered story focused on her emotions, her pleasures, her joy. Sweet, sweet frostings in this fluffy words cake. And then, I discovered Claire Keegan. Oh my goodness. A Forester's Daughter. What a story. Characters simply but solidly sketched, down to the dog. These little Faber stories are so good. I have yet to read a bad one. I screamed expletives upon finishing this. I love this. That desire belonged to yesterday has become yet another thing she may never be able to do. Small things like these. Everyone is talking about this book, so I had to read it, of course. Oh, I loved it. I bought this earlier in the year. I waited until December to read it, like everyone said to, because it takes place in December, running up to Christmas. That's all I knew about this. So I was so delighted at what this book is really about. For years, I recommend it to people for a great Christmas movie to watch. Silence. If you know, you know. Same vibes. Oh, but the writing. And Foster. This is This is new. It came out this year. I think this is my favorite one. Oh, but I love all three of them so much. But I love this one. Like this one, the telltale way that I know that I love a book is when in my notes I write in all caps, my heart, my heart. Yeah, my heart. Oh, little details, like how her mother's family are all tall with thin arms, to like swaths of things left unsaid. It's mysterious, it's foreboding, it's heartbreaking, it's achingly beautiful. Oh, great storytelling. Many's the man lost much just because he missed a perfect opportunity to say nothing. Read Claire Keegan. Oh, and another one. Something about December, just always, I read some of the best books of the year in December. CJ Reads said that The Seas was her favorite book of the year. So I'm like, okay, who are you, Samantha Hunt? And The Dark, which is her short story compilation, a physical library copy was available right away. So I started reading it. Oh, stunning opening page. In a coffee shop on Dead Elm Street, Norma arranges chicken bones on her plate, making an arrow that points to her stomach, where the chicken now resides. She once saw a picture of a hen in a science book. The hen had been split open down the breast, unzipped like a parka. I loved every story. Texas is in the story. It's funny, it's dark, it's strange, it's mystical, so enjoyable. So many delicious sentences. Samantha Hunt, who are you? I'm very intrigued. Yeah, I had to buy it. There's a story about a horse that I can't stop thinking about. There's a story about 13 pregnant high school girls that is so haunting that I can't stop thinking about. So of course, I had to read The Seas. Guys, one sitting, one night. Did it change my life? Oh, this is so good. So many amazing descriptions of what the ocean is like. Then there's the ocean, mean and beautiful. I always thought it was because the ocean is like a one-of-a-kind thing. Like there is nothing else similar to it in the entire world, and so the ocean feels no love, no mother, no father or husband, like a space alien. I always thought that just made it an extremely nasty and greedy thing, like an only child. Don't forget that the ocean is full of everything except mercy. Kissing lips between their ears. Oh. This book is just torrential feelings, like a deluge of rain, like a modern Emily Bronte. Oh, the feelings. Also this book, I mean, both of these books, they're the same size. I love this size of book. It fits so nicely in your hand. Another thing about this book that changed my habits, I did not want to highlight in this or annotate in this or mar it in any way because that would interrupt the flow. And I appreciated the prose of the writing. Felt like a break of a zippy quip that interrupts it. That's there for me to highlight or underline. Oh, this was beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Heartbreaking, obsessively emotional. And finally, I read Cold Enough for Snow by Jessica O because everyone's read it, so I had to read it. I did not like it, which is fine. It's totally fine when you don't like a book. Maybe it's good, I said, to stop sometimes and reflect upon the things that have happened. Maybe thinking about sadness can actually end up making you happy. We talked as if we were dancing, and danced until we were delirious. It was all so beautiful, I kept thinking, and perhaps saying out loud too, I could not seem to believe that this world existed, and that I had somehow got entrance to it. This was like reading about a coming-of-age girl who loses her shit to cool people and their cool convos, and she grows up thinking that this is her life, and she subjects her poor mom to her insufferability on this trip that they take together. I mean, this is my favorite way of storytelling. It's super ethereal, meandering reveries, but she just takes herself too seriously. Just feels too insincere. It's kind of like convenience store woman if the main character wasn't a psychopath. Like, just as unlikable, but everything makes sense. And what it really comes down to ultimately is it's a cultural disagreement. I feel like the main character, the tone of this book is too moderate, too steady of a speed with no spikes in between to break things up. I thought that if I tried hard enough, my effort would become real happiness. No. Very anti that statement. Very against that idea. The whole time I just wanted to tell her, just be your damn self. If you don't like it, you don't like it. If you like it, then you like it. That's all there is to it. I guess I could just say it's not for me. That's everything that I read in November and December. It was spectacular. I had so much fun reading really every single one. I will still do a end of year wrap up video. I hope that you guys all had a great November and December reading life, regular life, gossip life, and I will see you guys again very soon.